Atticus Schaefer, who played Brick in Modern Family, has type 4 osteogenesis imperfecta, aka brittle bone disease. The painful disorder prevents his body from building strong bones, causing his bones to break rather easily even from minor trauma. The 4'8" actor has fractured his bones countless times and received dozens of plates, rods, and screws in his legs. Despite this, Schaefer has noted that his struggles with the genetic disorder have helped him become more empathetic and compassionate as he's had to constantly overcome extreme pain. In 2014, some sick piece of human garbage glued dozens of razor blades to playground equipment at a park in Illinois. Several children cut themselves while climbing the monkey bars or using the slide, but the perpetrator was never caught. In 2012, a married cop from Atlanta named William Martinez died from a heart attack while having a threesome with his friend and a woman who wasn't his wife. Afterwards, Martinez's wife was awarded $3 million in a malpractice lawsuit when the jury found that his doctor didn't properly diagnose his heart condition or warn him to end all physical activity until further testing was completed. In 2000, 4-year-old Kian Hongyan survived being hit by a speeding truck driver but had to have both of her legs amputated. Sadly, due to her family's financial struggles, she couldn't be provided with prosthetics and instead had to improvise with half of a basketball. She became known as China's basketball girl, a symbol of resilience despite overwhelming odds. A few years later, her story went viral and she was offered free prosthetics by a hospital in Beijing when she turned 11. A pair of identical twins from Brazil would use their resemblance to impersonate each other and date as many women as possible, and then defend themselves from allegations that they were cheating on their girlfriends. They would even take turns having intercourse with the same women by routinely swapping with each other without the women knowing. After one of them got a woman pregnant and a DNA test was inconclusive when both twins refused to say who was the father, a judge ordered both of the twins to pay maintenance to the little girl. The judge said they were taking away from the girl's right to know who her real father was. Mel Blanc, the voice of Bugs Bunny and many more, started smoking at age 9 and changed his name from Blank to Blanc after a teacher told him he would amount to nothing just like his name. He was once involved in a head-on collision at a Sunset Boulevard intersection known as Dead Man's Curve, a spot notorious for accidents. The crash resulted in a 2-week coma, and he was completely non-responsive until a doctor decided to ask him, "How are you feeling today, Bugs Bunny?" Blanc then responded to him in the voice of Bugs and thus woke up from the coma. This also happened in the middle of production for season 1 of The Flintstones, for which Blanc was the voice of Barney Rubble. So during his stay in the hospital, the other actors would crowd around his hospital bed to record their lines. Around 40 episodes of The Flintstones were recorded in this manner. After the legendary voice actor died from heart disease and emphysema in 1989, his tombstone read, "That's all, folks." In 2021, Lady Gaga's dog walker Ryan Fisher was walking 3 of her French bulldogs in Hollywood when he was suddenly attacked by 2 men. After being shot in the chest, which resulted in permanent damage including the partial loss of a lung, he still tried to protect the dogs, but 2 of them were taken. Gaga later offered a $500K reward for the return of her pets, and 2 days later, a woman brought the dogs to an LA police station. The woman was later arrested along with 4 others in connection with the crime and tried to sue Gaga for not paying the reward money, asking for the $500K plus another $15 million for financial damages, pain and suffering, mental anguish, loss of enjoyment of life, and legal fees. She claimed that she never would have returned the dogs if not for the promised reward, and was therefore defrauded because she ended up with no dogs and no reward. The woman ended up losing the case, while shooter James Jackson pleaded no contest to attempted murder and was sentenced to 21 years in prison. Just last year, a man from India sliced open his pregnant wife's womb with a sickle to check the gender of the 8-month-old fetus. He wanted to make sure it was a baby boy after the couple had 5 daughters in a row and a priest told them it would be another girl. The baby ended up being a boy, but died as a result of the husband's heinous actions. A woman boarding a flight in Orlando was recently arrested after killing her dog in the airport bathroom. She apparently didn't have the right paperwork for her dog to board and couldn't take it, so she went to the bathroom and drowned it. In 2003, teenage Nevada siblings Bo and Monique Maestas bought some meth but were given salt instead. Outraged, the 2 went to confront their dealer at his home, but the door was answered by the dealer's young children instead. Despite this, the siblings attacked the children, slitting the throat of a 3-year-old and stabbing her in the head, while a 10-year-old girl was left paralyzed after a knife severed her spinal cord. 19-year-old Bo was sentenced to death, while his 16-year-old sister received life in prison. In the mid-2000s, a serial child molester living in Thailand posted various pictures of himself online depicting his abuse to young boys. But the man used an editing app to swirl his face, coining him the notorious nickname Swirlface. In 2007, Interpol managed to unswirl his face and reveal his true identity. Christopher Paul Neal was later arrested for the essaying of at least 12 young boys. He was released from prison in 2017 and now lives in Vancouver. In 1981, Japanese college student Issei Sagawa murdered the female student he was studying with, and then spent the next 2 days consuming her flesh to absorb her health and beauty, characteristics which he felt he lacked. A French court soon found him legally insane and deported him to Japan, where Sagawa avoided serving any jail time due to a legal technicality. Despite the gruesome details of the murder and his lack of remorse, Sagawa became somewhat of a celebrity and gave interviews in the years following his release. To this day, he remains free and even says he wants to taste human flesh again before he dies. Along with her boyfriend Paul, Karla Homolka raped and murdered at least 3 young girls, including her own little sister, Tammy. She allegedly gave Paul her 15-year-old sister's virginity as a Christmas gift upon drugging her with tranquilizers. After Tammy choked on her own vomit and died, Karla put on her deceased sister's clothes and proceeded to have intercourse with Paul on the girl's bed. When their crimes were finally uncovered, police found videotapes of the couple performing heinous acts on their young victims. But Karla managed to negotiate a plea deal known as the Deal with the Devil in exchange for her testimony against Paul. He's now spending life in prison while Karla is happily remarried with children. Considered by many to be the most prolific serial killer and rapist in recorded history, Pedro Lopez raped and killed over 300 young girls throughout several South American countries in the 70s. He was found guilty on 110 counts of murder and sentenced to 16 years in prison, Ecuador's highest form of punishment. After later being held in a psychiatric hospital, he was released on bail in 1998 and has remained missing ever since. He's likely still committing horrible atrocities to this day, as his current whereabouts are unknown. Nicknamed the Merchant of Death, Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout rose to power after the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 90s. Using his fleet of 60 cargo planes, the arms he's brokered have helped fuel conflicts in countries including Afghanistan, Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Liberia, Rwanda, Sudan, and Sierra Leone. Willing to sell guns to anyone who wanted them, Bout has supplied both sides of civil wars and is said to be responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of people. He was arrested in 2008 during a sting operation, where he was caught selling surface-to-air missiles that would have been used to kill American troops. But Viktor Bout is now free and back in Russia thanks to a prisoner swap for WNBA player Brittany Griner, who was arrested a few years ago after trying to bring a THC cartridge on a Russian airplane. In 2009, 25-year-old Antoinette Davis told police her 5-year-old daughter Shania had been kidnapped. Security footage showed Shania being carried to a nearby hotel room by a man who was identified as Mario McNeil, the ex-boyfriend of Antoinette's sister. When authorities conducted a follow-up interview with Antoinette, her story changed to something much darker. She admitted she had sold Shania to the man who was her drug dealer, merely to settle a $200 debt. To the shock of the officers, Antoinette disturbingly told them he was only supposed to have S with her. McNeil had lent Davis the money to help her pay for a hotel room, and eventually told her he either wanted his money or sex, so Antoinette offered her 5-year-old daughter. McNeil was eventually apprehended after Shania's body was found on the side of the road several days after he smothered her to death. McNeil was sentenced to death, while Antoinette received 17 years in prison and is set to be released in 2026.